When the protagonist wakes up, they find themselves lost in a different world. As they learn the words of the mysterious monsters that speak a strange language, they search for a way to escape. Along the way, will they fall in love with the monster men who come to their aid? The story of Homicipher is about a protagonist who has entered another world and must decipher the language of non-human beings while trying to escape. The game is a female-targeted language deciphering and exploration adventure that is based on the concept of romance with horror men. Here are some of the details about the game. The player must use dialogue, context clues, and trust to understand the language of the new world. Players can make choices at various points in the game, which can lead to small changes in development, branching paths, or instant death. Players can retry from just before a game over without any penalties. The game has many midway endings, including some fake endings, and the main ending occurs in Chapter 5. The game is designed for replayability, and players can rewatch scenes to understand character conversations. It takes about 5 hours to complete one playthrough of all routes. Hi, I'm CJ Lacaste, and I'll be the voice in your head today. So, this game has had me in a gorilla grip for like the past several days, and I have been searching, craving even the opportunity to finally talk about it. So, I'm about to tell you why I absolutely adore this game with every fiber of my soul. So, dive in with me. We start off by waking up to the sound of an alarm inside what looks like a decrepit old building with two hallways in front of us illuminated by red light on each doorway. Everything looks wet and worn down, as if the very structure around us is practically on its last legs, just waiting for a single push to crumble down around us. The first thing we're met with is flickering lights from the light hallway, and we get a glimpse of what looks like the silhouette of a person with long, messy black hair crawling on the ground. They suddenly jump in front of our face with a wide, jet black smile on their ashy gray skin. Startled and terrified, we run to the other doorway in a panic, leaving the terrifying figure behind. Finding a safe room to hide in, we shut the door behind us, locking it. Terrified and seemingly ridden with amnesia, with no clue on how or why we're even here, the first character we meet and are properly introduced to is Mr. Hood. Covered in brown robes with a void for a face and an intimidating axe in his hands, he acts as our soft-spoken, friendly guide and even our first ever introduction to this other world's new language. We learn a few translations from him, like uh, bucket, that work as our foundation for the rest of the game so that we may decipher the very odd and complex language of these ghostly creatures based on environmental and social cues. Our time with Mr. Hood is brief. He sends us on our way, seemingly communicating that his work with us is done. We're alive and supposedly well, so we head out, bidding Mr. Hood farewell, cautiously wandering down the dark and grim hallways with Mr. Hood's reassurance that we are safe. For now. We find ourselves in another gray hallway with 3 points of interest in front of us. A doorway with a large slab of metal in the way, a seemingly normal door in the middle, and another doorway in the far right. Opening the middle door greets us with the sight of a manic smiling face of a residential psychotic prankster with a thing for body parts, Mr. Gap. He'll ask you a question that you cannot yet decipher unless you really pay attention, or you're cheating the game like me. And depending on your answer, you either get killed or slam the door on his face in a fit of panic and go back to trying to decide between door number 1 or door number 2. Heading to the far right doorway leads you to a dark room with a floor covered in blood. You have the option to inspect the blood and walk towards deeper into the darkness. Choosing to ignore all warning signs and walk towards danger, you get killed, which leads us to door number 1. Heaving the metal slab out of the doorway, the unblocked doorway leads us to another hallway with 2 doors in front of us. I've been saying doors for like the past goddamn hour. God, this game really loves its doors. It reminds me of Roblox. Don't leave that in, don't leave that in. Entering the first door in front of us leads us to another gray empty room, or so we think. Looking around, we find nothing of interest other than a really odd clicking sound that seems to be coming from nowhere. Until we look down and find a severed hand jumping at our feet, making little clapping sounds. How? I don't know, man. Ghost world logic, I guess. The bloody hand points frantically in front of us, and we look up to find a severed head. Behold, everyone, my personal favorite character from the game, with a head of luscious orange hair tied into a braid, jet black eyes with orange pupils that stare into your very soul, a black goofy smile on his face that makes you want to squish this absolute potato to death. The personality of a diva and the facial expressions that could rival cringe TikTok influencers. It's Mr. Chopped! Mr. Chopped cries out in distress, seemingly gotten himself lost or in trouble somehow, and he beckons you to help. From little hints in his expressions, gestures from the little hand, and observational speculation, it's a big word for Elmo, we pick up our new best friend and head off towards a nearby hole. Jumping down, we're met with, you guessed it, another door. Heading inside, we're met with a pretty, nicely furnished room, at least for this world's standards. An old, worn down couch with a table and chair nearby, another damn door, and whatever this is. I think it's a ledge. Anyways, intruding onto the scene is Sephiroth's long lost twin brother. I mean, Mr. Chop's technically caretaker, local researcher, and doctor that probably faked his medical license, Mr. Silver. His name, an abbreviation of silver hair, because people have the vocabulary of a kindergartner and didn't want to say two words for someone's name. He questions your presence and most likely contemplating on making you his next lab rat until our main man BFF, Mr. Chop, comes to our aid, vouches for us, and tells Mr. Silver that we helped him and are therefore sentient and friendly. Do you understand how much I adore this little head? After a bit more back and forth, Mr. Silver realizes that we aren't exactly from here and can't understand the language. So as he sits us down and offers to teach us with the help of Mr. Hand and Mr. Chopped, again, we mostly learn the basics, numbers, expressions, body parts, left and right, etc., which really helps down the line, trust me. After our little teaching sessions, we grow a tad curious and invade Mr. Silver's privacy. I mean, inspect the rusted old door in the back of the room, revealing a dark and eerie little lab with a dirty table covered in dry blood stains, chairs nearby with bloody restraints stained with use, chains hanging on the wall, and an intimidating array of torture tools hanging nearby. And what do you know? Mr. Silver doesn't mind. He turns this into another language lesson for us, like Dora the Explorer if she were in the Bloodborne universe instead of the rainforest. So we skedaddle on out of there with one last conversation with Mr. Chopped and a farewell from Mr. Silver. Very eerie of you, good sir. Coming back up to the surface, the farther door that was previously locked is now open. Walking down the corridor, we're met with another fork in the road. One hallway glows with bright red light, the other not even lit up at all, both equally giving off a threatening aura, but then again, when is this world not? In front of us, though, are two little windows with bars on them. We have the option to go close and take a quick little peek, but once you know it, the resident prankster graces us again. Fortunately, our encounter with him is pretty short since the bars hinder him somehow. I don't know why. We've seen him pop up in arguably weirder places in the game, but okay, whatever. Drama queen. Avoiding the red hallway, we tread down the darker path which leads us into another empty, arguably dirtier room. Head to toe in chafing cement and looking like it's covered in dust, my allergies would have a field day in there. Roaming deeper into the room, we hear footsteps coming towards us. Finding a crowbar nearby, we quickly pick it up as our self-defense tool and hide behind a conveniently placed wall, quietly hoping that whatever's on the other side doesn't find us and goes away. We see the familiar shadow of that same man with long black hair from the very beginning stalking slowly into the room. He jump scares us again, but this time we absolutely shank him with the crowbar, leaving him with a bloody nose. Ooh. He crawls away and sulks into the corner like a kicked puppy. We go up and console him once we deduce that he's not exactly harmful like we initially thought. And that's how we got the long-haired man on all fours as our companion for the rest of the game. An absolute sweetheart that's a little high maintenance when it comes to attention and clearly the game's favorite, Mr. Crawling. He follows us around for the rest of our journey, being our guide and guardian, helping us decipher more words on the way. We head into the dreaded red hallway, finding a pile of splattered blood along the way. But I'm sure it's fine. I mean, yeah, it's probably no big deal. Someone probably just dropped their pizza. Heading deeper into the hallway, we hear footsteps. Another set, loud and heading our way. Mr. Crawling catches on and beckons us to hide, but with no visible escape or safe haven, he takes matters into his own hands and helps us by pushing us into a nearby corridor we didn't even notice and pinning us beneath him, shielding us from whatever is coming down the hall with his bigger physique. We catch a glimpse of what or who was coming down the hall in an attempt to remain unseen. A man in all red, holding a red umbrella. He glitches out before we can catch more, but for the moment, his quick departure is a good thing. We thank Mr. Crawling and he encourages us to continue on our way. Heading down the now safe hallway, we find a ladder at the end leading up somewhere. On the way up, while climbing, we seem to have a bit of a revelation, contemplating our journey up until now and realize that, yeah, we've lost a bit of our memories, but we remember our name. Our minds in a haze with no recollection of getting here or where we've even been before appearing here. We gain questions that'll hopefully be answered soon. Reaching the top, we're met with a dark tunnel that leads deeper into this huge building, the second floor of this entire world. Looking back at the ladder, we wonder if Mr. Crawling can even follow us up here because, well, he's crawling. We're quickly met with a yes as Mr. Crawling plays a bit of peekaboo with us, giggling in an oddly endearing, high pitched voice at our surprise. Playful spirit he is. We ask him again if he's just going to continue following us for the rest of our little adventure, and he seems to insist that it comes with us, repeating again how we are alone and therefore he's offering his help. A little sweetheart, ain't he? Oh well, with no other choice but to keep moving forward, we do just that. With a little crowbar in hand and a man crawling on all fours, we venture off into the frightening unknown. But hey, at least we're not alone, right? And that's the end of chapter 1. My gameplay pretty much ends there. The full game can be found on Steam at the low price of 460 for real? No way! Well, there goes my hopes of ever buying this entire thing. The prologue is free, but if you really want the full experience of the game, find all the answers to our questions, and even get some of the countless endings the game has to offer, you can find playthroughs online or just buy the game yourself. It's probably cheaper in USD anyways. Homicipher is a horror romance game with great art and great storytelling. This game has had me in a chokehold due to its interesting premise and its new spin on the otome genre as a whole. By reinterpreting ghost stories from Japan and spinning them anew, we get a colorful, ironic, cast of characters with a lot of personalities. Even for some of the background characters, we get to see a lot of love and personality put into them. From one interaction alone, we can actually get a quick scope of who they are as a person, and the game makes a great show of humanizing each and every one of them, even briefly. There are routes in this game for each character of your choice, and each character has multiple endings depending on the choices you make, and it's thrilling. The fun is in solving this world's new and almost unintelligible language and feeling that sense of achievement when you realize you've got it right. It's truly a fun game for people that enjoy a bit of horror, subtle romance that's not in your face, and a lot of deciphering. Gravity Falls fans, do you hear me? Highly recommended. Please check it out. If it's not for you, then too bad, you're weak. Thank you for watching me yap on, and if you made it this far, thank you so much. I don't know how you did it or why you even stayed, but thank you. That's all from me today. Have a good one.